Greece is a country with a proud heritage. It is a popular tourist destination, a place of great historical importance, and the birthplace of democracy. But all is not well in the land of Sophocles, Herodotus, and Aristotle. People, betrayed by their government, take to the streets in protest. Those in the West see them as troublemakers and anarchists, but nothing could be further from the truth. During the 1960s and 70s, Greece was controlled by a fascist military dictatorship led by this man, Yorgos Papadopoulos. It was a period of extreme authoritarianism, with control being forced on the public through the use of the police and the armed forces. Dissatisfaction and protest against the violent regime became steadily more common, especially amongst younger Greeks who thought that things needed to change. One such protest took on the 17th of November 1973, where students of the Athens Polytechnic University barricaded themselves inside to peacefully rebel against the government. The fascists, however, would tolerate no opposition. The barricade was charged down by tank and 24 people were gunned down, many of whom were under the age of 20. The outraged Greek people took to the streets in a much more extreme protest, and by morning the fascist government was no more. Parallels can be drawn to the protests seen today. It is fair to say that the economy of Greece has become a worldwide joke. This is mainly due to the mismanagement and unlawful handling of money by the government. Following the fall of fascism, it was changed into a similar mould of that of the UK, with two main parties fighting for control. They are known as PASOK and Nea Dimokratia. During the 1990s, the elected PASOK government promised what were known as new and modern liberal ideas, although what this meant wasn't specified at the time. It turned out that they would include the entry of the country into the Eurozone. They did this by severely cutting national welfare, completely neglecting the healthcare system, extensively privatizing many of the nation's state-run businesses, and almost completely destroying the education system. This and the increase in taxes forced many people out onto the street, unable to even afford at regulated EU prices. By the millennium, things were becoming so bad that over a third of the Greek people were living at or below the poverty line. This mood was not lightened by corruption within the government, with almost 50 times as many money scandals as there were in Britain during 2009. The role of the police force was no better. Seen as the thugs and the soldiers of the government, the Greek police is often under scrutiny. They are mindless and often brutal, and it is often asked whether they are paid to protect the people or merely to keep them in order. Needless to say, had they been in charge of the recent student riots in London, the mayhem caused would have been catastrophic. On the night of the 6th of December 2008, things were going to get a whole lot worse for the world of Greek politics. A 15-year-old boy, Alexandros Grigoropoulos, was out in his local district of Exarchia with some friends. On that night, Alex was killed by bullets from the gun in the hand of a police officer. This was the nail in the coffin for many Greeks. People rose up and took to the streets in protest. Anger was shown towards the police for its behaviour, and the government for allowing it to happen. Though the underlying problems could be seen through the burning of banks and governmental buildings, outlining the social problems which Greece now faced. Just like in 1973, it was the death of one of the nation's young citizens by someone in pay of the government which sparked extreme political unrest. During the death of young Alex, it had been Nea Dimokratia who had been in control, but in 2009 PASOK returned to government. Throughout the decade, corruption rose even further. The debt cause was only then brought to light, a situation which was not helped by the credit crunch. To stay afloat, the government now had to push austerity measures in exchange for a €110 billion bailout. This not only meant that people had poor healthcare, poor education, poor prospects and minimum pay, But it also meant that there would be further wage cuts, even higher taxes, a freezing of the public sector, most notably education, and a raise in the price of goods such as food and fuel. The people of Greece were once more outraged that the people they had elected to government had put them into such a precarious position. The sheer amount of people who turned out to protest against the signing of the austerity agreement shows how this action against the government is not merely the antics of youths, anarchists and communists, but is a large-scale social movement where people are fighting to bring in a government which represents more them and their needs. Is it fair to argue that democracy has died in the very city which it was born? Should people not be allowed to fight for the change that they so desperately need? Is it fair for outsiders to judge so harshly situations that they do not understand? Only one thing is for certain. If the situation is not improved, it wouldn't be unreasonable to think the scenes of 1973 could one day occur again.